And I knew you were going to ask it, so I'll answer it before you do. The worst draft story of our history is what happened with the Peyton Manning Ryan Leaf
Oh,
draft.
yes.
Or should I say the worst controversial piece of draft history in this town was Peyton Manning. I don't want to play for you, so we'll swap you to the Giants for Phillip Rivers, which really turned out to be a win-win. In fact, it was more of a win for the Giants because Eli Manning got them to the Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers never quite got there, got to an AFC championship game. So there is a lot of draft history. Manning went on to a legendary career. When he went first to Indianapolis, the Chargers took Ryan Leaf. And I will tell you, the whole world thought, great, because he had a great statistical career at Washington State.
Yeah.
But they didn't do enough due diligence. Mike Price, the Washington State coach, lied to Bobby Beathard about who this kid was. He was not a student of the game. They won at Washington State, and Leaf threw for 4,500, 5,000 yards per year because they were running an offense nobody had ever seen, the five-wide scheme, no backs, and chuck it on every down. And they could dominate because they had a lot of team speed. And Beathard and his people failed to do enough investigative research that Ryan Leaf was not a student of the game. Ryan Leaf was kind of like a bum, and he came here,
kinda.
And then he got force-fed to go into the lineup. By that time, I was the voice of the Seahawks, and the Chargers came to the Kingdome to play Seattle, and Leaf had just been named the starting quarterback. And, the hoopla, Ryan Leaf coming home to the Northwest, he and Craig Wheelahan threw 7 interceptions in one game.
I remember that game.
Against the Seattle defense. And I'm sitting there looking at it, and I looked next door, which was the visiting owner's booth, and I wondered what Beathard was thinking at that point in time. And of course, that evolved into the 1-15 team, and everybody got fired, and Leaf got traded. And I will say this about Leaf: I've never seen a human being make as many catastrophic mistakes in his personal life, become the poster boy for failure, and now be on ESPN like he's some media specialist.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So I guess credit to him for finding something he's good about, telling about his life's failure. I don't understand why everybody gravitates towards, Ryan Leaf's on TV, we must watch. Ryan Leaf was a miserable failure. And he finally admitted that he'd made a lot of mistakes, and he had a drug addiction problem because of the injuries, and he wasn't a student of the game, and admitted he was a bum. But he never apologized. He never apologized to San Diego. He never apologized to the Spanos family for, in essence, wrecking the franchise. Because when you burn a top number 1 pick, second choice overall, and the guy does not work out, it's catastrophic to your franchise. It took him forever, from Harbaugh to Flutie to Sean Salisbury. I mean, everybody but your black Labrador retriever was in the camp trying to play quarterback. So that's a side note to history. Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf.
I mean, I think that has to go down as one of the worst draft picks in any sport, and of course it's San Diego, the San Diego sports curse. I think of that all the time. I remember really trying to root for Ryan Leaf. I would give him the benefit of the doubt, but as a fan, you could only go so far with it before you just had enough of him. But the other part of it I'm thinking about is Bobby Beathard. And in the 90s, he was like what the Rams were doing. He was always trading away those number 1 picks. And I remember the Charger fans used to get so frustrated with that, thinking that Beathard was kind of ruining their future. And what's your take on that?
Well, Bobby had a great run in Washington. The one asterisk you need to put next to Bobby Beathard's name is his ability to go into the small college ranks and find players. He found a lot of players in a lot of places that nobody had scouted. One of his greatest acquisitions is Hall of Famer Darrell Green, Washington Redskins, unbelievable defensive back. And here in San Diego, Bobby, granted, he drafted Junior Seau, but when you have the 5th pick in the draft, you're not going to screw that up very often. He didn't. He got Seau, but he also drafted Rodney Harrison. Rodney Harrison had an unbelievable 10-year run with the Chargers and then got a ring with the New England Patriots. So, but he also made a lot of mistakes at the tail end of his era here, made a lot of mistakes in draft picks that just did not work out. It's not a perfect science.
No.
Because, you can do all the measurables, height, weight, 40 speed, hands, routes, receptions, toughness, and all that. But you can't do the introspection of heart, and you can't do introspection of, is he a student of the game? Sometimes the game comes easy for the guys who don't have to work hard to get to the NFL. You really have to work hard. Some guys are slovenly and it doesn't work out. One of the great tragedies was defensive end Chris Mims out of Tennessee, first round pick, huge guy, big physical guy, just got by because he was big and physical, never became the pro you really thought he would be. He was part of the Charger defensive line that went to the Super Bowl, but Leslie O'Neal really made that defensive line work. And then Chris Mims was out of the league, soon thereafter. And then he died of a heart attack because he was slovenly and grossly overweight. So there's all kinds of stories and all kinds of angles. And for every great Brock Purdy, Austin Eckler story, there are the human tragedies that are out there of guys that people made mistakes on, or guys who could not grasp the opportunity to be great.
Yeah, it seemed like Beathard was almost addicted to going for those, guys behind the radar that no one else saw. But did he draft Vincent Jackson as well?
Yes,
and that was in Northern Colorado, a D2 school. So that was another great find. But at some point you just got to stock a lot of really high picks so you can get those quality guys.
Big argument, but we're going to move on to the next topic. But the big argument is, John, okay, number one picks, they're worth a lot of value. But if I can go get multiples of values by trading the number one to George Allen over the Hill gang,